All right, so last time we talked about a few of your ideas and you all agreed that you wanted to do this does working outside of school affect your school performance question. And so because you chose that, lower on this document, you wrote out what questions you want to ask. And we've got a good variety. We've got, do you work long shifts? Number of hours you work? What do your grades look like before working? And then what do your grades look like now? And we have questions about the number of hours you work this week or last week, number of hours that you spend on schoolwork, and then how do you think your job affects your school performance? So you've got a lot of good questions. And you've also highlighted a lot of important quantitative questions, because remember that when we're doing this research, it's really helpful for us to have all of these questions, but the ones that we're going to graph are going to be these quantitative ones. So what you're going to be doing today, we have a few things that we're going to be doing. So first, we're going to go through and double check the questions to make sure that they still meet what we want to find out. We're going to be making a Google form, deciding on the population and sampling method, and then randomly selecting scholars to send the Google form. See if I can get out of here. So the first thing I want us to do is look through these questions, especially thinking about how people might respond to them. Because remember that last time you all took a survey that somebody else had made and you were asked questions like, what do your grades look like? And we got some responses that were like, oh, my grades are 80s and up, or I know one of my grades is a 92, but I don't know about the other grades, and things like that. So we want to think about maybe how could we edit any of these questions, or do we want to edit any of these questions so that we're getting exactly the right answers, or we're helping people to know what response we're looking for. So look through your own that you've written and see if there's any that you would want to edit, maybe to make more specific or to help people know exactly what response you're looking for. We'll take a minute or two for you to do that. All right, do you see any of these questions that you want to change? How are you feeling about these? Do you feel like you're going to get the responses that you want? Larry, what do you think?
Marcus was like, where are you gonna go? I was like, nowhere, I was just outside, so I got my stuff, and he's like, when is it not messed up? After he just got done telling me he wasn't gonna bother me today.
So we're okay with these questions? Oh, Larry doesn't think we should change. Okay.
We could have been for like 2 minutes.
I think you guys have got a good set of questions. So the next thing that we want to do is create a Google form that's going to ask these questions. So I have given you access to a shared Google Doc. Have any of you three ever made your own? Oh, sorry, that's the wrong one. One sec, I'll find the right one. Have any of you ever made your own Google form like to send out to people? No from Giselle. Aurelie, Larry, have you guys ever made a Google form? No from Larry. Aurelie, what about you? Okay. Ooh, good. Okay, so we get to learn a new thing. This is going to be cool. So click to open that form, and what you're going to see should be the same form that I'm going to show you on my screen. So the nice thing about Google Forms, you can make them whatever you want. So we're looking at the questions we want to ask. We can give it a title, and then we can start asking questions. So maybe it's like, how many hours per day do you work or whatever. As soon as you start writing it, this is your question, and you can do a lot of different options. So if you want like free response, open-ended, you could do a short answer. If you want people to do multiple choice where they're telling you one number, you can do multiple choice. Or if it's like, what days do you work? You could do a checkbox where they could say, okay, I work Saturday and Friday and whatever else. And then once you've got your question looking the way you want, you can set it to required or not required, which is good for if we want to make sure that everybody answers our survey questions. And if you want to add a new one, you just click this plus right here. And it will give you another question. So I'm going to delete that one because we don't need it. Other things that we can do, we can change the settings, we can change the theme and all of that good stuff. But the first thing that I want you to do, each of you take the questions that you gave us and add them to the Google form. So whatever you wrote, add them. And then if you see any that are overlapped, maybe delete so that you don't have two of the same question asked twice. But let's go ahead and start adding these so that we have our survey set up. Questions from anybody about how to do this?
No, like report a cost.
All right, go ahead and get started and let me know if you're having issues editing it. All right, these are looking really good. It seems like you guys are still working on them, so we will take a few more minutes. Please just let me know in the chat when you have finished with all of your questions so I know when we can move on.
I need help with wording a question because I have a question that like I want to ask like do you work in general, because I think that's a question we need, but I don't know how to word it because the answers are going to be part-time, seasonal, and I don't work. I don't know how to ask the question.
Gotcha. Okay. So you want to know, like, if you work, when do you work, sort of thing?
Yeah,
But,
kind of.
yeah. So maybe like, what type of work do you do? Or something like that. Or you could even just say, do you work full-time, part-time, or seasonal? But that's a good question because you're right. Like we've asked people, do they work? And we've asked people like, how much do they work? But we don't have a good like, are you
Yeah, so I think
part-time?
just put do work and then I'll put a full-time, part-time, seasonal, and I don't work.
Yeah. I do have something that I'm wondering about for y'all, which is the what are your current grades looking like question. What are you expecting people to say? How specific do you want them to be? Because what I'm wondering is, sorry.
To put their actual grades, like what their current on Power School, what their grade is.
Mm-hmm. Could you tell them to do that? Because I'm thinking, like, if I saw that question, my answer might just be good. Like, my grades are fine. Okay. Do any of you need more time to enter questions? Okay. So something cool that we can do to kind of check to see what we're really working with and how this is going to look to other people. I'll share screen and show you. If you click on this little eye over here, it's going to show you a preview of what people are going to see when they click on it. So they're going to fill out, do you work? They're going to fill out their Power School grades. Do you think the number of hours you work affects your school performance? Do you find yourself procrastinating? How many hours do you work? And then which days? Have you gotten time to work on school after getting a job? Oh, this one looks like somebody's still editing it. So we have yes, no, maybe. And then maybe some ones that have to do with if you have a job. What time do you go to work? This is, I think, an important one because I was wondering about that. We haven't had very many questions that are looking at, does it matter if you work until midnight on school nights, or does it matter if you're, going to work at 9 o'clock on a Saturday? And what do your grades look like before working? I like a lot of this. It looks like we still have some that we're editing. And just so you know, if you are thinking that you would like to reorder any of these, like it doesn't make sense maybe for one of these to be last or anything like that, you can actually click on a question and drag it to move it. So kind of decide if you feel like there are two questions that should come right after each other, let's make sure that that happens. We want to make this as easy for the people to fill out as possible. We don't want them to be confused and not know what to say. All right, it seems like we have got this to a pretty good place. That last question has been edited. And if anybody wants to go back and make sure that their questions are required or change any of the words on them, you can still do that. Something that I want us to think about is, who are we going to send this to? So I'm gonna tell you what your resource is, and then we're gonna discuss how we might decide who we're gonna send it to. So I have for you a list of every scholar at Peak. It's just a list of their name, who their study hall teacher is, and their grade. I'm gonna share this with you so that you have a copy as well. And the great thing about this is that we can decide who we want to include in our sample. We can decide how we're going to get that information. We don't have very many details about people, but we do know what grade they're in. So what we're looking at right now is the 10th graders. When you open it, you'll see a list of the 9th graders, and you can click to see the different grades along the bottom right. Here's the 11th graders and 12th graders. And so what I want us to think about right now is, who do we want to include in this study? Basically, who is our population? And this could be everybody in the school. It could be more specific. I'm wondering if anybody has any thoughts about what should our population be of people that we ask? Especially thinking about, we've talked about bias before. We've talked about if we select people in the wrong way, we might not get very good results. So I'm just going to go around and ask each one of you what you think might make sense for a population. Larry, what do you think we should do as far as population? Who should we be polling?
Maybe we could do like a certain number per grade. Like we could do like 25 per grade, like 25, 9, 10, 11, 12, something like that.
Okay. And why do you think that would be a good idea?
I think it's like Giselle said. She said that it seems unbiased, and we could just put like the numbers. We could put their numbers in a random generator, and then
Okay.
whatever number pops up, we like go to that number and we choose that student.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So Giselle, can you add to that? Because it sounds like you maybe agree with this idea.
I like it because we're not like it's random sampling. So we're being unbiased. We're not choosing the people. We are just like we're gonna get like we don't have to do. I don't know. I know we'll figure that out, but we'll just grab the same number from for each grade and then put it in uh on those numbered website
Mhm.
generated thing, and then yeah.
I like that. You guys are pointing out a good point, which is that there might be difference between the grades. And so you can control for that bias. Do you know what type of sampling you're talking about? Because we'll take notes on this, but like we have those sampling methods that we've talked about: simple random sample, cluster, stratified, paired sampling. Which one do you think you're talking about when you talk about picking 25 people from each grade? Aurelie, let's go over to you. When they talk about picking 25 people from each grade, is that simple random sampling? Also, let me know if you guys need a refresher on this, because I know it has been literally months since we've talked about sampling method. Oh, Aurelie says maybe cluster, because we're grouping them by grades, and then randomly select from each grade. And that could be cluster. I think that makes sense. Remember that there is actually two where we group. There's cluster and stratify. So I like that you identified that cluster is grouping. The difference is cluster sampling, we would have like a jumble of all the grades. And we would say, okay, we've got 10 groups and they all have a jumble of grades in them, and we're going to randomly select these two groups to sample. Stratified, which I think is what you're thinking of, is when we separate people by their category. So we're separating them by grade. And then from within that grade, we say, okay, we're going to pick 25. So yeah, your explanation is perfect as an explanation. It just should be stratified instead of cluster. So here's what we'll do for this one. Let's just have each one of you fill out one column of this graph of this table that we're looking at, since we are all doing the same one. I actually don't need to give you the link because you should still have this up. This is the next page down from this one. So Aurelie, since you talked about sampling, I'm gonna give you this one. Larry, you talked about what population we should use, and Giselle, you told me why you thought that would be unbiased. So when I talk about variables to control for, you're going to talk about how we're controlling for bias. Let's just take maybe 2-3 minutes for you guys to fill that out. Let me know if you can't find it or are not sure what the question is asking. All right, so we have population. We will sample a portion from each grade. Variables to control for. It's unbiased because we aren't picking and choosing who we want to participate in the experiment. And it's stratified because we want to group the students by grades and then randomly select from each grade. The only thing that I want us to clarify is because we're sampling a portion from each grade. So we've got 9th graders at peak, we have 10th graders, we have 11th graders and 12th graders at peak. What would that mean that our population is? Because remember, the sample always matches the population, but the population is the whole group. So what's the whole group that we're studying? If you want an example of what I mean by this, Jeanette has decided that she only wants to study 10th grade. So her population is 10th grade. She's not asking every 10th grader to fill out the survey, but she's sending out to a certain number, or she's sending it out and a certain number of 10th graders will respond. So her population is 10th grade because she's only asking 10th graders. If she was only asking boys at the school, it would be boys who go to school at peak, right? But what her population is 10th graders who go to peak. So if we're doing 25 people from each grade level, what would we say is the population that we're describing? I think that's perfect because we've got everybody in the high school. Giselle, that makes sense. We can say our population is high schoolers who go to peak. Could we use this data and say, oh, this is also true for high schoolers who go to every other school at Uplift? Well, that might be a bit of an issue because we haven't asked high schoolers from any other school, right? So we want to make sure that our sample always matches with the population. Okay, I do have a question for you about your method. So we have a list of these people by names. How are we physically going to get them to fill out the form? Because one option, so the option that Jeanette's doing is she's sending it to the study hall teachers and asking them to send it to all of their students. And then she's going to be randomly selecting some of the responses to use in the sample. Another option would be to try to email scholars individually to get them to respond. If we do our stratified sample and we pick, okay, Larry Serrano needs to fill this out, we could email you specifically.
I
There
think
might
we
be
should
other.
do by the study hall teacher. We'll give them like, oh, this student needs to take this survey, and they can give it to that student to do.
Okay. Would you want to specifically tell the study hall teacher, okay, this person by name needs to do it? Or would you want to do some other where it's going to be like a whole group? How are we going to do this? Because what you're describing is a little bit closer to that simple random sampling, which is excellent as far as being unbiased, but we've talked about it's kind of harder to do, picking people one by one. We can do it. I just want to make sure that we're thinking through which option is going to be like best for us.
I mean, everyone can do it, but I don't know why we would need the extra information because we're only looking at from us. We're looking for the answers for those certain people that that
Mhm.
we got from the number generator.
Okay. Okay. So then let's go ahead and do our selection process. I think for this one, we could use the list, the random list generator. So let me see if I can get that website up. All right, there's the link. It looks like this. And what we can do is actually using this document, I think you should be able to copy all of the names and paste them. Let's see if this is possible. Did it paste? Yes. Okay, so I just copied the last names of the 9th graders in and pasted them. This might be an issue if there's like 2 9th graders with the same last name, right? Like if we have 2 Gonzalez's, then you would need to go in and make sure that you have 2 different ones. But you can copy it in. And then you can get it to create a random list for you. So now it's randomized them. There were 171 people on my list. Some of them are blanks, but that's okay. So how many people do we want to select from each grade level? Larry, remind me what you said. $25. Okay. So help me out. If I want to select 25, if I want to select 25 people and I've got this random list, which numbers are going to be the people that I choose?
We used the 171 and like and then just another random number generator and have them choose it.
Oh, okay, okay. So you would want to go like here and then have it like 1 to 171 and get a list that way?
Yes.
All right. Larry, Aurelia, do you guys feel like that makes sense to you? Are you on board with this idea? Sure. Okay. So then let's divvy this up. Let's create a space for us to list out who we're going to select. So stratified sampling, we need the list of 9th graders selected. We need a list for 10th and 11th and 12th. And we'll just use this to document whoever's names you choose for each one. And remember that you would need to get up to 25. So let's just have each one of you tell me what grade you're going to be doing your sampling for. and you can start making your list. So for example, if you were doing the ninth grade and you just randomly generated a 71, you could go pick number 71 is Silva, which if I look back on here, I have to find Silva and decide who that person is. This might be a slow process. So I would encourage you guys, this is totally going to work. But if you have, so that would be Daniela Silva, if you have a way that you think of that works better, let us know, because this is totally up to you to make it work for yourselves. All right, Giselle's on ninth grade. Larry Orelli, what grade are you picking? Larry's taking 12th grade. Orelli's got 10th grade. Awesome. All right. Let's see how much we can get done in the last few minutes of class. All right, y'all, this is gonna take us a while, I think, but we've made a good start. So this is going to be your homework. The thing I want you to get done before next class is complete your grade level list. So we have our list of who we're gonna send this out to. I know on the calendar it said Super Tuesday today. We're not gonna do that. And also next class on Thursday, we are gonna have to have asynchronous because I have to go for a senior decision day. Oh, sorry, I really see your question. But this is a good question. I'm gonna put it. Giselle, Larry, can you guys see the question she just posted? How are you doing it?
Okay, so the way that I understood it is we put the wait, could I share my screen actually?
Yes. Yeah, you should be able to. I think I enabled screen sharing. I know it takes a minute to figure it out. Is it working for you? Yes, it's working.
Okay, you can see it. Okay, so wait, can y'all hear me too? Okay, so I grabbed these people. I'm doing 9th grade, so I grabbed, copied and pasted their names, and then I fixed it to where there's no like there's no blanks or anything, so it can be accurate. And then right here it says 169, so then I put 169 in the generator, then I'll generate it, and then 71, so I look for 71 Aguilar, and then, or I don't know if to do that or look for, wait, what was it? I don't know if to do that or look for 71 over here.
Ooh, interesting point. So you could do either way. I feel like there is a bit of a shortcut because, Giselle, if you go back to the middle tab, what you've just made is a random list. Like it's not alphabetical anymore.
Okay, so do this one instead.
Yeah.
Okay, well, I do this, and then I look for Aguilar's first name so I can have his name out or her name out,
Mhm.
and then I just write the number that was next to it. Or I think I wrote the number that it was on the Google Doc or on the docs.
Mhm.
Yeah. I think that's how I don't know. It just made sense to me, like to put the number that it's on so we can find him or her easily with their teacher.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that makes sense.
So we'll put first and last name and their number that's on the sheet.
Yeah. And then Aurelia, your other question was how many? So we're picking 25 people total, right? So you would have to do this 25 times. All right, guys, awesome. If you feel like you get it and you're gonna be able to finish this on your own, go ahead and sign out. If you wanna go over it together, you can totally stay. Thank you so much, guys. I will see you next time. What you've got, and we'll just make sure that you know how to go through this process. Okay, can you click go back at the bottom? Okay, so what you're doing right now, you're going to paste in here and it is going to list your people in a random order. So can you copy them over? Awesome. Are there any names where there's like 2 people with the same last name? Oh yeah, I see some Sanchez's and Ramirez's. So can you go back to the list and let's see what the first name of those people are? Ooh, you genius. Yes, let's try that. Awesome. Okay, so now everybody has their first name with it. If you click randomize at the bottom, is it going to give you, oh, this is perfect. So what you have right now, I want to make sure you know what this is. You have taken your alphabetical list and you've already randomized it. So can you think of a way, this is not something that Giselle talked about, but could we make this easier for ourselves? And can we use this random list to select our 25 people? Okay, how could you do that? That's what I'm talking about, exactly. So this is, Giselle's process totally works, right? But she had to pick hers one by one. If you know that you have a random list, you can just pick the first 25 and be done. This is kind of the benefit of thinking a little bit more slowly through it, is you've kind of found yourself a shortcut. So you can just copy the 10th graders, double check that you have 25 of them, and that's all we need from you. And actually you taught me something because I was trying to do that for 11th grade and I was getting so caught up on the first and last names that I couldn't get it to work. Thank you for that. I'm gonna go ahead and do that with my first and last names instead of just the first name or last name. All right, then you are all set. So like I said, it's gonna be asynchronous next class. I'll post a form for you to go through instead. Do you have any questions other than that? Awesome. Thank you so much for asking. And I'm so glad we figured that out. See you next week then. Bye.